Good morning, everybody. Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, everybody at home. Welcome to this soft, foggy, springy morning, and welcome to the First Unitarian Church of Providence, where we love beyond belief. This is the changeable, beautiful, hopeful morning we have been given. May we make the very most of it. Starting now together, our prelude this morning, played by our own Nancy Nicholson this morning up at the organ, is My Lord, What a Morning.
Chalice lighting, the words are in your order of service. This light burns also in our hearts, and it lights our path toward harmony, justice, and hope for all.
It's so good to see everybody, and it's so good to be feeling the softening of the season. The invocation this morning is one I wrote last night, and it's called These Peepers. These peepers, my God, what a racket. Out in the pond behind the house, they sound like they must be covering every inch of every tree half a mile from the pond. They are a wall of chirping, piping, ringing, living sound. Below them or apart from them or echoing from them is a muttering, squawking, cackling sound, quite equal to the peeping. What is that underneath? Birds, perhaps? Nocturnal, a busy burr of baby somethings? A democracy of ducklings, a decadence of doves? The air almost shakes from all this sound so late at night. Tinnitus on the scale of the planet. This commotion of clamor and echo, peeping chirps and warbling, squabbling, point and counterpoint, shrill descant, and what is it that descends under the line of a melody? What is the opposite of descant? Silence, according to Webster's. Silence is definitely not the answer I am seeking. Silence is definitely not what I am hearing. Silence is definitely not what I would wish. Give me the racket. We are here. We are back. We are everywhere with much to say. You darlings, fill my ears, my sore heart and weary soul with this ringing, your living. And this is our time for greeting. More and more of us in this meeting house every day, and rising numbers also at home online as we, I guess, start feeling like we're coming back to church in all ways, any way, every way we can. So let's rise in body or spirit and say hi to the people near us, wave at the folks just across the way or the people in the furthest corner away, call out, blow kisses, greet the strangers near you and the dear ones near you, and then I love seeing this buzz of everybody together. Hello, people in the way, way back. And then let's all turn as we can and greet everybody who's home. They're pointing to that mic at the end of the organ loft, the camera where everybody is at home watching us. Hello, everybody at home. Hello again. We miss you, and we're so glad to be connected this way. Can we join now, everybody at home, everybody here, and why don't we rise as we're able, in body or spirit, to read the church covenant together and remember and remind ourselves what it really means to be in this community that is shaped by its own people across hundreds of years of gathering. We, the members of the First Unitarian Church of Providence, with respect for the worth and dignity of each person, with wonder at the light we know by many names, and with gratitude for our deep connection to each other and to the larger web of existence, covenant to walk together in our search for truth, seeking the paths of wisdom, compassion, and justice. Please be seated. And Catherine, you're going to introduce yourselves, yeah? That would be great.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
My name is Catherine Jameson, and this is my partner, Ethan Kizavat, and we will be giving you some music today. That's a good sound check. Hello.
Oh, much better.
Okay. that you dare to dream really do come true. Someday I'll wish upon a star and wake up where the clouds are far behind me, where troubles melt like lemon drops away above the chimney tops. That's where you'll find me. Somewhere over the rainbow, bluebirds fly. Birds fly over the rainbow. Why then, oh, why can't I? If happy little bluebirds fly beyond the rainbow, why, oh, why can't I?
Thank you, Catherine and Ethan. We're going to share the joys and sorrows of our community. A candle of joy. Happy birthday to Hannah Rosenbaum. And another candle of joy. Happy birthday to Kelly Smith and Sam Cole's daughter, Carson, who just turned 18. Happy birthday to Joseph Reek. Happy spring, a candle of hope for a good outcome for Steve McCloy's eye surgery and a quick return to good vision. A candle of gratitude from Reverend Liz for her niece Sienna and her husband Tim's recovery. He is solidly recovering from COVID, and Tim is home, and hopefully he will be better very soon. A candle of healing and care for Barbara Westlake as she recovers from a medical procedure. A candle of healing and care for Sina Pounder as she recovers from a medical procedure. And a candle of healing and care for Phyllis Cole, having a malignancy removed this week. A candle of healing and care for John Kasparis, who suffered with broken fingers this week. There's a lot of healing and care going on, right? You all are going to be very careful now. A candle for Tim, remembering his husband. A candle for Terry's family, remembering Terry. And a candle, which we all share, for the Ukraine. A candle of remembrance for Nora Cohen, who died in February, with our condolences to her husband Tito and the family. And a candle of love to Dolores Breca and John Breca. John died late last week at home under the care of his beloved wife, Dolores. There will be a service here, a memorial service, next Sunday, right at noon. So right after this service, you're all invited to attend this memorial service. John
Doctor,
and
we've got an Easter skit rehearsal until 12:30.
all right. So after Easter, after the Easter skit,
Sorry.
we will have a memorial service. And that will be next Sunday, the 27th. All of you, as I said, are welcome. We're going to prepare now for meditation and prayer. Please let yourselves relax. Become present in the room. Drop your shoulders. Please take a breath. And please take another breath. And one more. I'm going to offer you some original words that I call showing up. Spirit of life and love. Are we a people of showing up or shrinking away? Are we holding on to rigid ideas or showing up with open minds and open hearts to what is unfolding? We ask that you help us to show up for our lives. Help us leave our certainty about how things should be so that we may be present to the not knowing excitement of how things could be. Help us to stop being blindly complacent so that we may see beyond the hard edges of our old, familiar comfort zones. Help us to release what brings us false security so that we can create the space to help others feel safe. Help us to let go of our fears in favor of a firm faith, letting go of what holds us back from our true natures, such that our bellies burn with the fire of our greatest potential. And, beloved Spirit, because holding back and shrinking away can never grow our souls, make us a people who know always and again when to show up. Amen.
Blessings by Barbara Peskin. We spend so much time running from ourselves, fleeing from what we know about the goodness in our hearts. We think we can escape the intelligence of our loving. Imagine you are standing before a bodhisattva, Jesus, Buddha, the First Mother. It does not matter what you call the Holy One. He has dust on his shoes. Chaff clings to her. The smells of being alive. Shining from their faces is the beam of all their questions, the compassion of their living. Can you see yourself through those eyes? Can we know each other like this? We who no longer believe in messiahs can hardly believe in each other. Can we know ourselves seen and know each other this same way until our restless hearts learn to abide in this knowing and this love? Can we live in this gaze of blessing?
Back when I was training for ministry, we young ministerial aspirants sometimes struggled with feeling intimidated by the prospect of an entire lifetime in ministry. A lifetime of trying to help our parishioners through various challenges. The sermons it seemed we would write and deliver forever. The wisdom we would need to acquire and then share. The patience we would need to summon and nourish among ourselves and our people, the endless, ageless injustices that we would set ourselves to end in our lifetimes. It was a lot. And it was in those instants when we were feeling the pressure of all of this, especially along with our own inevitable inadequacies and fallibility, that our teachers and mentors at divinity school, and honestly, I think it waters down this story to just even say that, divinity school, you gotta love the name, it's so lofty. Where do you go to school? I go to divinity school. Oh, what do you study there? Divinity. Right? Business school, you learn about business, you go into business, practice business, you become a business person. Divinity school, you can see where that goes, right? Yet not so much divinity, no. In fact, preparation for a lifetime of ministry is incredibly humbling, which is why so many of us often felt so daunted about the expectations and responsibilities of ministry. And this was when our teachers and mentors would say, professors there often were also ministers at the same time, they would often say reassuringly, 95% of ministry is just showing up. That actually was super reassuring. We might not have all the answers, but just showing up, coming to visit at a time of bereavement, meeting for a walk to help someone process a tough challenge, coming to meetings prepared with what training and ability we possessed, stepping into the pulpit week after week with whatever was our best that week, whether it was awesome or just All this was what we understood to be the 95% that would be required of us. And we figured we could do that. And no, as far as I know, none of the people who said that ever were working from a quantified number. There was no chart or graph that they brandished at us when they said this. It was just experiential truth, which is often what ministry math looks like. I really wish now that I had ever once, all those times I was told that and felt better, I really wish I had ever once said, okay, but what about the other 5%? Because no one knew that a time was coming when showing up would be so hard, when we would be moving in and out of lockdowns, when we would at best be able to be present to each other under masks that cover 2/3 of our faces, so we're constantly reintroducing each other and ourselves so we know the friend that we're looking at, when we would not be able to see our expressions, our smiles and grimaces and gravity and levity. That we would often be meeting over phones and on Zoom, sometimes all day long, until our capacity to keep staring at faces and screens was just spent, whether or not the day was over. That we would struggle to stay in touch with each other, that we would have to teach and learn remotely, that the timeless sacredness, think of it, of breaking bread together, the essential communion of nourishing our bodies and our souls together, in the congregational traditions of coffee hour and lunch meetings and making and sharing refreshments at committee and team gatherings, all of that would be impossible. I'm not even talking about all the other aspects of our lives, holidays spent without family, or with days, weeks of preparation, testing, quarantining, waiting, and stress just to be safe enough to share air with those we love most. Schools for all ages struggling to teach their students, students of all ages struggling to learn from screens, elders isolated at home without resources or experience to participate online, and with scammers ready to prey upon them at their most vulnerable and least prepared to recognize a scam when it descends upon them, innocently clicking on a video, a funny video, or some dire warning that pops up on their screen. Showing up safely, effectively, lovingly has become hard as anything. And that's one of the worst scourges of this struggle we are living through. And that showing up safely, effectively, lovingly is also at the heart of congregational life. Yes, 95% of ministry is showing up, but also 95% of church is showing up. And that is why I think all faith communities, without exception, have been so challenged by this time, because online relationships are different. They just are. Inherently, profoundly different, as anyone who has ever ventured even just a toe into internet dating can attest. A screen is a veil. And even a thin veil somewhat obscures our vision. Sometimes in ways that are fascinating and beautiful, sometimes in ways that are frustrating and obstructive. Even these worship services, which we now offer in person and live streamed, and we're still learning how to do it, and we're still working on having it be as direct and accessible as possible, and it's getting better, but it's not easy. Thank you forever to our tech team, who will never surrender and keep advancing the ball of online worship down the field. All the ways we have created to cope and compensate regarding the challenges of a church's relationships going online are so precious and carry such inherent challenge. Challenges to the power and connection that comes with presence, the immediacy, the nuance, the communion of souls. All that has been part of being in relationship with each other our whole lives long. So this time is still very much about finding ways, frequently different than before, to be present to each other, to give and receive presence with each other. And it takes negotiation. And it takes openness to ambiguity, that great human strength. Openness to ambiguity and to evolution. All these are otherwise known as change, which have always been part of the human experience. And whether or not we've always chosen change, it always carries with it the invitation to grow, to embrace what calls us beyond what we already know, to what we need to know next, and what we need to integrate into our understandings and our ways as part of our own becoming, individually and collectively, as people and as a congregation. When we do this, we learn and deepen every time, and it is good for us. It is good for us regardless of whether we love it or hate it. AFGE. Maybe you have heard of it. It's like LOL for laughing out loud. AFGE. Another darn growth experience. There have been so many AFGEs in recent years, inevitably sometimes more than we might feel we can absorb, even when we're doing our best to take them in and move forward. I keep thinking of that legendary curse, "May you live in interesting times." But really, in the end, our only options are to show up for the times we live in, and to recognize always our own power within these times. Because we all have power and choices to make, and abilities to leverage and strength to share, even when we are worn down, even when we're cranky. And it is our showing up for each other, with each other, continuing to open ourselves up to each other, being as fully present as we can in all the ways we are able, and getting as creative as necessary in order to show up for each other. That's what eases the burden of these days and reinforces our strength for these days. The drive-bys, the outside visits, cuddled under blankets, the walks, the extra phone calls, the windows open for air even on a rainy day, another Zoom birthday party. There are so many now that we're in the spring. We heard a bunch of them from Roger this morning. They are not the same as what we're used to. But if there is a lesson in these interesting times we are living through, it is that we have a bunch we need to be learning. And a lot depends on our learning, and it all comes down to our own deepening, our own resilience, our own ability to show up in the ways we must in order to be present to what matters most. It's true on the most macro levels, right? Crisis and war, climate change, racism, genocide, and it is true on the most micro levels: selfhood, relationships, personal resilience, mental health. All of that is about the ways we show up for each other and ourselves. There are certain conversations I anticipated when I was going into ministry. Most of my friends and peers did. Is there a God we expected to discuss with our people? Why is this happening to me? What comes after death? And the truth is that in my almost 30 years of ministry now, those conversations have happened a lot less than I expected when I began and tried so hard to be ready for them. There is another conversation that has come up many times, and I didn't expect it. And the conversation is about whether or not to make a trip to be with a loved one who is in their last days or hours of life. And these have always been deeply honest and emotional conversations with questions full of pain and struggle. Legitimate questions for so many reasons. Should I make the trip? I haven't talked to him in 10 years. We've been estranged ever since I came out to him as gay. Should I try? I know I won't be able to get there in time. Should I go? I would have to bring my children, and I know they're not ready for this kind of experience. My family doesn't get along. Every time we're together, we just argue and fight. This is just going to make it worse. I'm not good at this kind of thing. I just get awkward and nervous. I don't think my being there is going to help. Even if I go, I don't think she'll know I'm there. She is already pretty unresponsive. So many versions of this perennial question. And what I have learned over time, and what I therefore say, if people ask my opinion, is that if we possibly can go, go. Show up. Because the regrets that I hear are from folks who couldn't go or who didn't try in whatever way. So often that can leave us guilty, conflicted, unfinished, seeking a resolution that we will now have to shape and find ourselves over time, which we can do. And sometimes that's the only option we have left. But if we have the chance to show up, there is somehow, almost always, in fact, I have never heard otherwise, but let me not promise it, a peace that comes almost regardless of the actual outcome, because we showed up, and in doing so, we did what we could in the end, which is all we can ever do. And even if there is no fairy tale ending, and we can never know what to expect, having done all we can seems to bring a kind of serenity and a deepening with it. And the larger wisdom of this life lesson is that in the end, it is not just ministry or church that is 95% showing up. It is life. Life is 95% just showing up. In mind as well as body, in spirit as well as substance, in whatever ways we are able. To all of it. And I really want to stress that right now, because the example I just gave is a hard one. And it's not only that we have to show up for everything that's hard or do our reckoning when we weren't able to. Yes, we have to show up to the wrongs we need to right, the tragedies we need to mourn, but also we have to show up to the best parts, to the incredible gifts and beauty that life gives us, that life still is giving us right now. And I know that some of us are feeling guilty about showing up for anything good right now. Guilty for posting something lovely or celebratory on Facebook. Guilty for working on something that they love. When there is so much to fight and so much to mourn. But it is our human charge to honor all that we see and all that we know, which means all that gives us pain and all that gives us joy. Showing up to fight injustice, to manifest compassion in tangible ways near and far right now, and also showing up to notice the first crocus. The crocus is blooming right outside this building, and the tulip leaves beginning to poke their tips above the earth, and the spring peepers peeping passionately as dusk falls. The peepers are from the genus Pseudacris, and their conventional name for that genus is chorus frog. And as we slowly return to our own singing and our own choirs, how wonderful to be led by the peepers. How wonderful to hear them and remember the power of spring, the awesome power of spring. How wonderful to show up for that power and weave it into showing up for our own wild and precious lives, which have their own place among the imperatives of our time. "95% of life is showing up, and it is spring." Can you hear the birds outside this building? Can you see the sunlight coming through the windows and the softness in the air? Open yourself to the goodness. Let us open ourselves to the flowers and the burgeoning earth. Let us remember the imperative of softness and of giving ourselves and letting ourselves soften even in the midst of a hard time. Letting ourselves show up for it all, good and bad. Letting ourselves show up for those who matter to us, even when it's hard. Letting ourselves show up for all of us here and for those far away. Let us honor the growth and change that are the essence of life. And life in this season bringing such beauty and goodness. We don't need to know everything, fix everything, be all things to all people. We cannot do it, and that is not what life asks of us. What life asks of us and calls us to again and again is to show up. May you hold on to that as I held on to the lesson in divinity school. 95% of life is showing up. Happy spring, everyone. Amen. And so much gratitude to our church members and friends who are the music this morning. We have such gifts among us in so many ways. The offering is now going to be received for the life and the work of this beloved community. Everybody online, it's not too hard to give online. If you click on the buttons on our website for giving. Everybody here, I have asked folks who are back in church now to try to give, if you're able, also for all the Sundays, weeks or months of Sundays that we weren't able to be together, and help the church make up the slight deficit. Well, it's not slight, it's a huge deficit we've got in terms of the Sunday morning offerings, and we can all redress that if we give a little extra now that we're back together. Please give as generously as you are able, and thank you for all that you give and all that you do and all that you are.
I have nothing to say. Well, nothing that's not been said. I do not know where to go. I want to make things that count, things that will be new. What am I to do? Move on. Stop worrying where you're going. Move on. If you can know where you're going, you've gone. Just keep moving on. I chose and my world was shaken. So what? The choice may have been mistaken. The choosing was not. You have to move on. Look at what you want, not at where you are, not at what you'll be. Look at all the things you've done for me. Opened up my eyes, taught me how to see, notice every tree, understand the light. I want to move on. I want to explore the light. I want to know how to get through to something new, something of my own. Move on. Move on. Stop worrying if your vision is new. Let others make that decision. They usually do. You keep moving on. Look at what you've done, then at what you want, not at where you are, what you'll be. Look at all the things you gave to me. Flower on your hat and your smile and the color of your hair and the way you catch the light and the care and the feeling and the life. We've always belonged together. We will always belong together. Just keep moving on. Anything you do, let it come from you, then it will be new. Give us more to see.
Next week, I hope we're going to be able to sing some hymns together. And as part of doing that, we'll rise in body and spirit for that. But we're not doing it this week, so let's just do a seventh inning stretch for a moment and invite everybody to stand for one more moment and give your body a break in whatever ways work. I don't really like to be told how to move my body, so I always resist that when I'm in the audience. So I'm not telling you, do this and then that, and do this gesture and that gesture. Just move, or don't. But feel free to move for a moment and stretch your body in this space together. And when you're ready, you can sit down. I'm going to start talking about the invitations. You just have to be sitting by the time I'm done. I mean, technically, you don't have to, really. First of all, we are now, this is the first Sunday, I believe, we are now able to gather for fellowship in the Parish House, which is through these doors and the breezeway into the next building, after worship with masks. We are not yet able to serve food because of the masks, but you can visit and connect indoors now. And if you're going in there, please be sure to check out the Newcomers Cafe in the parlor behind the fireplace if you go into the hallway and turn right. And the bookstore, which is in the atrium, go down the hallway and go straight. And also Connect and Reflect today will be facilitated by Kate Niles, and we'll meet in the Parish House Moon Room, which is, I forget what floor that's on. Can somebody help me? 3. Is it 3? It's up there. So you would go up to the 3rd floor of that building, and if you want to find your way there with help, Kate Niles, would you stand, Kate, so people can all readily see you and they could sort of maybe go along with you and find their way that way to the Connect and Reflect, which is an opportunity to talk together about the themes of the service today and your own responses and thoughts around the ideas in the service. And of course, if you just want to gather for fellowship, it's like coffee hour without the coffee, which is not the first congregation I have served that did coffee hour without coffee, so, and snacks. Secondly, there's a Path to Membership class being planned for Saturday morning, April 9th, and Sunday, April 10th after worship. And this is for those who are interested in knowing more about this congregation, First U, and Unitarian Universalism, this faith. And several people have requested a class that meets at sometime other than a weeknight. So if you want to know more about it, or if you want to go ahead and sign up, please see Jen Nardone, our membership coordinator. Jen's waving right now in the aisle at the back of the meeting house, or the front of the meeting house, at the street end of the meeting house. And she can gladly talk to you. You will also be able to find Jen over at the Newcomers Cafe in the Parish House after services. I am excited to remind us all that we are planning another weekend with the amazing music minister David Smith from All Souls Tulsa. It is going to be so awesome. We had something like 70 people from this congregation singing in the choir with David 3 years ago now when he came to sing with us. And this time we are doing a program together with our friends from Bethel AME over on Rochambeau. And so there's going to be an even richer dimension to what we're doing. There's a whole weekend involved from April 28th to May 1st. And we're going to be releasing a schedule of where we'll be when and who should be where when in our emails this week. But in the meantime, so please look out for that, and I hope everybody, this is just everybody who likes to sing. You don't need to be able to read music. In fact, he doesn't teach people the songs using music. He does it in the tradition of the Black Church, which is his own background, which is about learning by ear and singing together in harmony that way. So it's just such a blessing to have him with us again, and I'm super excited about it. We're doing lots of work to prepare for this already. And the most important thing you need to know in the meantime is that Sunday, May 1st In the joint worship service we're doing together with Bethel, so our singers and their singers, and Pastor Jenkins and I will be sharing the preaching that morning here, but it will be at 11:30, starting at 11:30, because Bethel has stuff they need to do first that morning. Then all the singers will come here at 10 o'clock for an hour and a half of intensive rehearsing, and then we'll start worship at 11:30. So, what time is worship on Sunday, May 1st, the David Smith weekend?
11:30.
Great. Please put that in your calendars now. Please tell everybody that you know is interested in this, any friends you're going to invite for that very special Sunday. Please make sure you know. I'm sure somehow we will end up with people here at 10:30, but we don't want it to be heaps of people who are then like, oh, what do we do now? So 11:30, Sunday, May 1st, that time only. And of course, always please read the First U Times. We send it every Friday afternoon with all the important information you need about upcoming events and news. Our benediction is from the poem Today by the poet Billy Collins. And before I read it, I would just invite you to look out some window that is convenient for your looking. Just look out the window at what you see of this day. If ever there were a spring day so perfect, so uplifted by a warm, intermittent breeze, that it made you want to throw open all the windows in the house and unlatch the door to the canary's cage, indeed rip the little door from its jamb. A day when the cool brick paths and the garden, which will burst with peonies, seemed so etched in sunlight that you felt like taking a hammer to the glass paperweight in the living room end table, on the living room end table, and releasing the inhabitants from their snow-covered cottage so they could walk out holding hands and squinting into this larger dome of blue and white. Well, today is just that kind of day. Can we join in the words for our chalice extinguishing, led by our worship associate, Betty Finn?
We carry
the flame
of peace and love and hope until we meet again.
And our postlude is Spring Dance by Edvard Grieg. Everybody's welcome to head wherever you need to go now, but we're doing another Easter skit rehearsal here in this space. So thank you, and hopefully this day will be a beautiful one for us all.